So I want to talk to you about whether there is a right squat for you at the right time, depending on where you are in your training block, whether you're new to strength and conditioning work, whether you are a runner, a rider, a swimmer. There's different types of squats, and I want to kind of share with you like what I would be taking into consideration if I was you. Now, when you're starting off, we want to kind of get the mechanics right. You want to be getting hold of a broomstick. You want to be doing it with a bit of body weight, where you're kind of just working out what those basic squat mechanics look like. Getting your kind of feet just outside shoulder width, sitting back into your heels. We should be able to wiggle your toes, getting your butt below knee depth, driving to extension. We want good symmetry. We want good range of motion. Bringing a broomstick into play, can we then simulate that with a broomstick? It's a great way of us starting to think that we're going to need to start bringing some form of weight into play. Bringing this in is just a nice little tool that can be easily found around the house in most gyms. We're going to progress onto the barbell later, but before we even do that, we want to add some sort of load. We're bringing in dumbbells. We could bring in front rack. So if you've got a pair of dumbbells at home, you could be working with one. Working on that goblet squat, you could be working with two. Kind of in that front rack position, resting the dumbbells up on your shoulders. If you've got a kettlebell at home, you're working similarly on just developing that squat mechanics. If you're very tight, you might want to be bringing in heel elevated version, where we're taking the load. If you've got tight calves, you don't have great range of motion because you spend a long time maybe sitting behind a desk, or you have tight calves because you run a lot. Working on that heel elevated variation just alleviates some of that tightness, allows you to sit deeper, a little bit more upright. We could bring weight into play to make this even more kind of a much better variation of that goblet squat. This also puts a lot more emphasis on your quadriceps, on your patellar tendon. Great way of developing more strength and stability to the joint. And then of course, moving on to the barbell and doing exactly the same. You're just adding more load, taking into consideration that you're working with a 7-foot long barbell that weighs 20 kilos on its own. A couple of weight plates on either end, and you've got a back squat variation, you've got the front squat variation. Either way, depending on who you are, what your training experience, you may have taken 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks of just consistent strength training twice a week alongside your run program to develop more confidence, competency, developing that levels of strength and conditioning to then progress onto a barbell. Barbells are designed primarily just to allow us to create more load, put more load on the body, to overload those key muscle groups, those joint structures. We want to be putting the bar onto your shoulders, getting familiar with that weight on your back, feeling that load, working on those squat mechanics. Some people might not get on with this because they're not used to having weight on their shoulders. You start with just a bar, you start with just some weight, you work on exactly the same mechanics, you hold yourself to a high standard. Good symmetry, good range of motion, good stability through that full range of motion. We don't need to be chasing down maximal numbers if your primary focus is to run, ride, swim. You earn the right to lift heavier loads. We bring in variations of the front squat where we're resting the bar on our shoulders in this more front-loaded position, working on these other variations. We normally start someone with the back squat because it's less thought process, there's less mobility restrictions, but the front squat's part of the conversation because it loads our kind of anterior aspect of the body. It gets us loading different aspects of our body, putting more load through the quadriceps, glutes, etc., depending on the focus of the phase. All of it has a place within your S&C program, but the prescription of those certain exercises is going to be determined upon your experience, your injury history, your levels of comfort, the availability of your equipment. We may bring in other variations like the split squat, which is very much a bilateral exercise where you're putting one foot in front of the other. That's still part of this squat family. The overhead squat, some of you maybe be aware of that technique. But again, we're ramping up the complexity of your movement mechanics. Most endurance athletes that we work with take a long time to get to those places where they're kind of working on those more complex movement patterns because there's a risk versus reward. We're trying to develop your foundational strength to then obviously prevent injury, to like build up more resilience, build up more athletic qualities, make sure you don't have any obvious weaknesses, develop those major muscle groups. And we use variations of the squat to do so. All right, but there's a progression. There's a logical progression to this. You've got to earn the right to develop, move through the gears with a lot of this, and you will move back and forth. Just because you move onto the barbell doesn't mean you don't move back down, back across to the dumbbell or the kettlebell variations. You can bring in heel elevated versions along the way. Do you only work with those variations? No. Any good program will have you working through different variations all the time. So just a little quick kind of whistle stop tour around different squat variations. Is there a right fit for you? Yes, probably to start with. Along the way, no. You should be able to, we're working through different variations to create different stimulus to then develop more strength, stability, power, speed, endurance through all those major muscle groups. We're just leveraging these tools of the trade to get more out of you so you can keep doing the things that you love. Any questions around your squat, just ask, and I'm always happy to answer.